The royal mark burned under the strange wolf's fur before Harper Whitlock even unlocked the shelter door. It flashed gold beneath the storm-wet black coat, there and gone, like the world had blinked and shown her a secret it immediately regretted. Harper stood on the porch of her rescue shelter in pajama pants, snow boots, and an old University of Montana hoodie, holding a baseball bat she had grabbed with more confidence than planning. The wolf lay across her welcome mat like a fallen statue, huge enough to block the entire doorway, one shoulder dark with dried blood, amber eyes open and watching her as if he had every right to judge the condition of her porch. Behind Harper, her orange cat, Biscuit, appeared in the window and gave the wolf a look of deep professional disappointment. "No," Harper said. "Absolutely not. I am not taking in a 700-pound murder carpet at 2 in the morning." The wolf did not move. The wind shoved snow across the porch boards. Somewhere past the shelter fence, the pine trees bent and groaned. Harper should have called the border patrol. She should have called the pack office. She should have done what every low-ranked Omega was trained to do when something royal, dangerous, or bleeding landed on her property. Step back, lower her eyes, and let somebody important handle it. Instead, the mark flickered again under his fur, and the bond in her chest answered with a sharp, impossible pull. Harper stopped breathing for 1 second. Not fear. Not exactly. It felt like hearing your name whispered in a room you knew was empty. The wolf's eyes narrowed, like he had felt it too and was annoyed by the inconvenience. "Don't look at me like that," she muttered. "I didn't schedule a mate bond crisis." His ear twitched. Great. A judgmental royal wolf with timing. Harper set the bat against the wall and crouched 6 feet from his teeth. "I'm going to help you," she said, keeping her voice steady. "But if you bite me, I'm telling everyone you cried." For the first time, the wolf's tail shifted once in the snow. Not a wag. A royal acknowledgement, maybe, or a threat with manners. It took Harper 20 minutes, 2 blankets, and more bad language than her grandmother would have approved of to drag him inside. Biscuit watched from the hallway, tail high, acting like management. The shelter smelled of disinfectant, wet dog, coffee, and the peppermint candle Harper lit whenever life started feeling too feral. She cleaned the wolf's shoulder carefully. No deep tearing. No fresh bleeding. Silver burn around the wound, though. That made her stomach sink. Somebody had wanted this wolf down, not dead yet, just weak enough to disappear. When Harper pressed her palm near the injury, her gift woke. Images hit her in pieces. A throne room, shattered glass, men in council coats turning away, a voice saying, "Your Majesty, forgive me," and the cold bite of betrayal so strong Harper had to pull her hand back. The wolf stared at her. Harper whispered, "You're not strange at all, are you?" Before he could react, Biscuit hopped onto the exam table, stepped onto the wolf's back, and sat between his shoulders like a general mounting a warhorse. The wolf froze. Harper blinked. Biscuit looked toward the dark northern window, straight at the border. Then he yowled once. Harper followed his gaze and saw headlights moving beyond the shelter fence. 3 black SUVs rolled slowly through the snow, no plates, no pack markings. The wolf's growl filled the room like thunder under the floor. Harper reached for the lights. Too late. A voice outside called, "Omega Whitlock, open the door. By order of the Northern Crown, we're here for the king." Harper killed the lights, grabbed Biscuit off the wolf's back, and whispered, "Nobody makes a royal announcement on my porch at 2:40 in the morning unless they are selling something or hiding a body." The wolf rose before she could stop him. Not fast, not dramatic, just one silent lift of muscle and command that made the whole exam room feel smaller. Biscuit dangled from Harper's arm with the offended dignity of a senator removed from a microphone. Outside, the 3 black sport utility vehicles idled near the fence, their headlights cutting through the snow in hard white bars. A man stepped onto the porch. He wore a dark pack coat with the Northern Crown crest sewn over the heart, but Harper noticed the problem immediately. The stitching was wrong. The crown points leaned left. Real royal uniforms did not lean. Her father had served border supply for 11 years and complained about details like that at dinner until Harper learned things against her will. "Omega Whitlock," the man called again. "Open the door." Harper looked at the wolf. His amber eyes were locked on the crest, and the air around him had gone cold in a way no thermostat could explain. The mate bond tugged under Harper's ribs, not soft this time. but sharp with warning. She hated that she trusted it. She hated more that it was probably right. "You know them," she said quietly. The wolf's lip lifted, not enough to show real threat, just enough to say the answer was ugly. Biscuit squirmed loose, dropped to the floor, and marched straight to the wall map by the supply closet. He slapped one paw against the northern border, then dragged his claws down toward Redspire territory. Harper stared at him. "Since when do you understand geography?" Biscuit meowed. It sounded judgmental and classified. The man outside tried the handle. The lock held. "By order of Acting Regent Donovan Vale, surrender the animal in your possession." Acting Regent. Harper felt the words settle like ice water. The Northern Crown Pack did not have an acting regent unless the Alpha King was dead, missing, or being erased before breakfast. The wolf gave a low rumble. Not fear. Recognition. Betrayal. Harper heard it inside her gift as clearly as if someone had opened an old wound in the room. A throne. A council chamber. A hand on a shoulder. A voice saying, "For the stability of the crown." Then silver pane and falling snow. Harper stepped back from the door. "Well," she whispered, "that is not suspicious at all." She moved quickly then, because low-ranked Omegas learned early that panic was expensive and usually useless. She shoved the wolf toward the laundry room, pulled an old freezer chest in front of the inner door, and tossed a blanket over the bloodied bandages. Biscuit jumped onto the freezer and sat like a furry paperweight with military clearance. The front door shook once. Harper opened it before they could hit it again, wearing her best customer service face, the one she used for donors who brought raccoons in laundry baskets. "Can I help you, gentlemen?" 3 men stood on her porch. 2 clean for field officers. 2 tense for messengers. The leader glanced past her shoulder. "We received reports of a dangerous wolf." Harper smiled. "This is Montana. You are going to need to be more specific." His eyes narrowed. Somewhere behind her, the strange wolf stayed silent, but the bond pressed against Harper's heartbeat like a hand asking her not to move closer. The man pulled out a tablet and turned it toward her. A live pack broadcast filled the screen. Donovan Vale stood beneath the Northern Crown banners, face solemn, voice smooth as polished stone. "With grief, I confirm that Alpha King Callum Ashford has fallen. Until a new ruler is chosen, I will protect the throne." Harper looked at the hidden wolf, then at the fake crest on the man's coat. Her voice dropped. "That is funny," she said, "because I think your dead king is in my laundry room." For one frozen second, nobody on the porch moved. The leader stared at Harper as if she had just insulted both his badge and his bloodline, which, to be fair, she had meant to do. Behind her, the laundry room door gave the smallest wooden creak. Harper did not turn around. Turning around was how people in scary movies confirmed they had no survival instincts. "You are confused," the man said. "Happens all the time," Harper answered. "Usually before coffee, rarely with fake royal stitching." His polite expression cracked. "Good. Men who lied for powerful people hated being noticed in small details." The 2 behind him shifted closer to the door, and the air changed with rank pressure, heavy and sharp, the kind higher wolves used to make Omegas lower their eyes. Harper felt it press against her shoulders. Her knees wanted to bend. Her pulse wanted to apologize. Then something warm and furious moved through the mate bond, wrapping around her spine like a hand catching her before she fell. The laundry room went silent. The pressure broke. Harper looked at the leader and smiled without warmth. "You really should leave before my cat gets involved." The man made the mistake of glancing down. Biscuit was no longer on the freezer. He was on the windowsill beside the porch, staring through the glass with round yellow eyes and the calm hatred of a creature who had chosen violence as a communication style. The leader reached inside his coat. Before Harper could move, the hidden wolf hit the laundry room door from the other side. Not hard enough to splinter it, just hard enough to remind everyone that the thing behind it was enormous, royal, and finished being polite. The porch men stepped back. Harper used the half-second they gave her. She slammed the door, threw the deadbolt, and shoved a chair beneath the knob because old habits from living alone in the country were not glamorous but did pay rent. That was subtle, she snapped over her shoulder. The wolf pushed into the hall, blanket dragging off one shoulder, amber eyes fixed on the front door. He looked terrible, proud, wounded, and absolutely ready to start a war in her mudroom. Harper stepped in front of him. "No, you do not get to bleed on my floor and overthrow a government in the same hour." His stare sharpened. The bond pulled again, this time showing her a flash of him in human shape. Black coat, silver crown pin, a council chamber full of wolves bowing because they had no choice. Then the image twisted. Donovan Vale at his side. A cup lifted in toast. A trusted hand. A betrayal quiet enough to look like loyalty. Harper swallowed. They were your people. The wolf lowered his head, and for the first time since she found him, the command in him faded into something worse. Shame. Not because he had been beaten, because he had not seen it coming. Harper's anger softened before she gave it permission. Hey, she said, quieter now. Being betrayed is not the same as being stupid. His eyes met hers. The bond warmed, careful and startled, like he had forgotten kindness could arrive without asking for repayment. Then Biscuit leapt onto his back again, marched up between his shoulders, and slapped one paw against the wolf's ear. Harper blinked. Did my cat just give you an order? The wolf looked offended, but he turned toward the wall map. Biscuit stared at the red line marking the northern border, then at Harper's truck keys hanging by the door. Outside, engines revved. More headlights slid through the snow. Harper picked up the keys and sighed. Fine, but if we are starting a royal escape plan, we are stopping for gas first. Harper's truck was a 12-year-old blue Ford with a cracked dashboard, a heater that believed warmth was optional, and exactly half a tank of gas, which felt rude given the size of the crisis. She backed it out of the shelter garage with the headlights off, while 3 fake royal officers argued at her front door, like men who had expected obedience and received Montana instead. The wolf lay under a canvas tarp in the truck bed, too large to hide well, and too proud to hide gracefully. Biscuit sat on top of the tarp like an orange warning light. Get down, Harper whispered through the rear window. Biscuit did not get down. The wolf gave a low sound that might have been pain or royal embarrassment. Harper drove through the back service road, past the fenced dog runs and the old hay shed, then cut toward County Road 16. Snow slapped the windshield. The mate bond tugged every few seconds, each pull carrying pieces of Callum's pain, anger, and one very clear opinion that her truck needed better tires. Nobody asked you, she said, gripping the wheel. In the rearview mirror, headlights appeared behind them. 2 sport utility vehicles. Fast. Harper exhaled through her nose. Of course, because apparently treason comes with all-wheel drive. She turned hard onto a logging road her father used to take when border storms shut down the highway. Branches scraped both sides of the truck. Biscuit flattened his ears but stayed on the wolf's back. Callum shifted beneath the tarp, and Harper felt his instinct rise, sharp and protective, wanting to turn, face them, end the chase. No, Harper snapped. You are not fighting anybody while you are held together by gauze and bad decisions. The bond flared, offended. Then, softer, worried. Harper hated how much that reached her. I know, she said quietly. I know they are your people. I know you want to go back. But dead kings do not win arguments. The headlights fell behind when she killed the main road and slid down an old ranch trail marked by 2 leaning fence posts. 10 minutes later, they rolled into a closed gas station near the Redspire border, the kind with 1 pump, a vending machine, and a restroom key attached to a wooden spoon. Harper parked behind the building and climbed out. Everyone stay calm. Biscuit immediately jumped from the truck bed, crossed the snow, and slapped his paw against the vending machine glass. Harper stared. This is not snack time. The wolf lifted his head under the tarp and looked at the machine. Inside, reflected faintly in the glass, Harper saw the red glow of a security camera turning toward them. Not a gas station camera. Pack grate, hidden above the ice machine. Before she could move, floodlights snapped on across the lot. 4 Redspire border wolves stepped from the tree line, wearing gray coats and expressions that did not believe in lucky accidents. Their commander, a woman with close-cut dark hair and a scar through one eyebrow, looked at the truck bed first, then at Harper. Step away from the animal. Harper raised both hands slowly. He is not an animal. The commander's eyes narrowed. Then what is he? The tarp slid off as Callum stood, massive and silent. Biscuit balanced between his shoulders like this had all been arranged for his personal legacy. Every Redspire wolf went still. The commander inhaled once, and her face changed. Not fear. Recognition. That is impossible, she whispered. Harper glanced from her to Callum. I have been saying that since 2 in the morning. The commander lowered her voice. Alpha King Callum Ashford died yesterday. Harper looked at the wounded wolf, the fake Northern Crown vehicles sweeping closer through the trees, and the cat sitting on royal fur like a field marshal. Apparently, she said, he did not get the memo. The Redspire commander did not point a weapon at Callum. That was the first thing Harper noticed. The second was that every wolf in gray stepped back when Callum lowered one paw from the truck bed to the snow, wounded or not, like their bodies remembered a crown their politics had been told to hate. The commander lifted one hand to stop her patrol. "My name is Mara Kincaid," she said, "border commander of Redspire. If you are carrying the Northern Crown King in the back of a farm truck, I strongly suggest you start explaining before your fake officers arrive." Harper looked past her. The headlights were getting closer through the pines. "I run an animal shelter, I drink gas station coffee, and my cat apparently outranks me. That is the whole explanation I had before sunrise." Biscuit, still on Callum's back, sneezed like the situation bored him. Mara stared at the cat. "Is that necessary? I stopped asking him that in 2021. Mara made a decision fast. She waved two wolves toward the road and opened the back gate of the station lot. "Bring him inside our line. Now." Redspire territory began less than a quarter-mile beyond the gas station, marked by black pines, old stone posts, and warning signs that looked handmade because border packs trusted bullets less than reputation. Harper drove behind Mara's vehicle down a narrow road into a guarded compound tucked between cliffs. It was not a palace. It was a winter stronghold, all steel doors, pine smoke, floodlights, and wolves who looked like they slept with one eye open. Callum refused help getting out of the truck. He stepped down, swayed once, and pretended he had not. Harper saw it anyway. "Very majestic," she muttered, moving beside him. 10 out of 10. "Nobody noticed you almost face-planted." His amber eyes cut toward her. The mate bond warmed with something dangerously close to amusement. Harper ignored the way her chest answered. Inside, Mara led them to a council room with maps covering 3 walls. Red strings crossed the border, not toward invasion routes, but away from them. Peace corridors, supply roads, neutral medical paths. Harper's stomach tightened. "You were not planning a war." Mara's face hardened. "No." Callum Ashford was trying to prevent one. The wolf went still. Mara opened a locked drawer and placed a folder on the table. 3 months ago, he proposed a secret truce. Shared border patrols. No forced conscription. No raids blamed on either side without investigation. Donovan Vale opposed it because fear kept your counsel obedient. Harper looked at Callum. He did not meet her eyes. That hurt more than she expected. "You knew Redspire was not the enemy." Silence. "You knew Donovan might be." Still silence. Biscuit climbed down, crossed the table, and sat on the folder as if guarding evidence from idiots. Harper gave a short laugh, without humor. "So I was not just hiding a wounded wolf. I was hiding the king of a pack that has been lied to, hunted by his own regent, and dragged into a border conspiracy by a cat with control issues." Mara glanced at Callum. "He did not drag you. The bond did." Harper froze. Callum's head lifted sharply. Mara's expression softened by half an inch. "I can smell it. So can every trained border wolf in this building." Harper stepped back from the table. The room suddenly felt too warm. "You knew," she said to Callum, voice low. "Back at the shelter. You felt it." His ears lowered. Not guilt like a dog. Worse. A king ashamed. Harper pressed her palm to the edge of the table. "You let me choose without telling me what the choice was." Callum shifted forward, then stopped, as if one more step might break what little trust remained. Before Harper could say more, a siren sounded outside. Mara crossed to the monitor. Donovan Vale appeared on every pack channel, standing in Northern Crown Square beneath black banners. Behind him were rows of loyalists on their knees, guarded but alive. His voice was calm, almost gentle. "At dawn, traitors to the crown will answer for hiding the truth." Harper looked at Callum, anger and fear twisting together through the bond. "That is your pack." His eyes burned gold. Harper swallowed hard. "And somehow, it is my problem now too." Mara gave them 40 minutes, which was generous in the way a seat belt was generous before a crash. The stronghold moved around Harper in controlled chaos. Boots on concrete, radios murmuring, maps pulled down, Redspire wolves loading medical packs instead of weapons because Mara had made one thing very clear. "We are stopping an execution, not starting a war." Harper stood beside the council table, with Donovan Vale's broadcast still glowing on the wall screen. Callum watched it without blinking. The loyalists kneeling in Northern Crown Square were his people. His guards. His old cook. A gray-haired border medic Harper recognized from supply runs. None of them looked surprised to be abandoned by the council. That was the part that made Harper angriest. They looked like they had expected power to save itself first. Callum took one step toward the door. Harper caught his shoulder before thinking. The mate bond sparked under her palm, warm and wounded. He stopped, but he did not look back. "No," she said. "I know that look. That is the look men get right before they do something noble and deeply stupid." Biscuit sat on the table beside the folder, tail curled over Donovan's stolen evidence like an orange judge. Mara folded her arms. "He cannot return alone. Donovan controls the square, the broadcast tower, and most of the inner guard." Callum's body trembled once, not from fear, but from the effort of holding his wolf together. Then the air changed. Power rolled through the room. Harper felt it hit the windows, the floor, her lungs. Callum shifted. It was not smooth or easy. It was a fight between injury, will, and royal blood, and when it ended, a man stood where the wolf had been, one hand braced on the table, black hair damp with snowmelt, amber eyes exhausted and awake. Someone behind Mara inhaled sharply. Harper forgot every smart thing she had ever planned to say. Callum Ashford looked younger than his title and older than his scars. He looked like a king who had been carrying a crown inside his ribs until it nearly broke him. "I go first," he said, voice rough but steady. "If Donovan sees Redspire at my side before my pack sees me alive, he will call it invasion." Harper stepped closer. "And if you walk in alone, he will call it convenient." His mouth almost moved. Not a smile. "Not yet. You argue like a council elder with better boots." "Thank you. I hate that." His gaze lowered to her hand still on his arm. The bond softened, and for one dangerous second, the room faded. No politics. No banners. Just his quiet regret pressing against her anger. "I knew what the bond was," he said. "At your shelter." Harper's throat tightened. "I know. I should have found a way to tell you." "Yes. I did not trust the truth to protect you." She looked at him then, really looked. Truth does not protect people. It lets them choose. That landed. She saw it. The king flinched without moving. Biscuit chose that moment to leap from the table onto Callum's shoulder, digging claws into the black shirt Mara had tossed him. Callum closed his eyes. "Your cat hates protocol. My cat hates weakness. There is a difference." A siren pulsed twice outside. Dawn was coming. Callum reached into his coat pocket and placed his royal signet in Harper's palm. "If I fall, take this to the square. Show them Donovan lied." Harper curled her fingers around it, then shoved it back against his chest. "No, you do not get to hand me a tragic keepsake and walk into a sunrise. We go together, or I throw this at your head and let Biscuit lead." Mara's mouth twitched. Callum stared at Harper, and through the bond came something fragile, stunned, almost painful. Hope. He closed his hand over hers around the ring. "Together," he said. Outside, engine started. Biscuit climbed from Callum's shoulder onto his back the second he shifted again, settling between his shoulders like he had been born for war and mildly disappointed it had taken everyone this long. Harper grabbed her coat, wiped her eyes before anyone could comment, and followed them into the snow. The convoy left Redspire before the sun had fully cleared the mountains. 3 gray trucks moving without headlights through back roads that had never appeared on any official Northern Crown map. Harper rode in the front passenger seat of Mara's truck with Donovan's evidence folder on her lap, Callum's royal signet in her coat pocket, and the mate bond pulling toward the huge wolf running ahead of them through the snow. Biscuit rode on Callum's back like he had filed paperwork for the position. Every time the road curved, the cat leaned with perfect balance, orange tail raised behind him like a battle flag. Mara watched through the windshield for 3 silent minutes before saying, "Your cat is either blessed or deeply unstable." Harper kept her eyes on Callum. Those are not mutually exclusive. The plan was simple, which meant Harper trusted it about as much as gas station sushi. Mara would bring Redspire witnesses to the edge of Northern Crown territory, but Callum had to enter first. His pack needed to see him alive before Donovan could turn the rescue into an invasion story. They would cut through an abandoned mining road under Wolfpine Ridge, cross into the old service tunnels beneath the broadcast tower, and reach the square before dawn announcements finished. That was the plan until Biscuit changed it. Halfway through the ridge pass, the cat stood on Callum's back and yowled toward a narrow ravine to the east. Callum stopped so suddenly the first truck almost slid sideways. Harper was out before Mara finished swearing under her breath. "Biscuit, if this is about breakfast, I will personally embarrass you in front of the kingdom." Biscuit stared at her, then slapped one paw against Callum's ear. Callum turned toward the ravine. The bond tightened in Harper's chest, not with fear this time, but recognition. Something was there. Something old, cold, and familiar to the wound in his shoulder. They followed the cat down through pine and broken stone until the ravine opened into a hidden loading road. Tire tracks cut through the snow. Fresh. At the end stood a storage shed built into the rock, locked with Northern Crown steel. Mara broke the lock with one clean twist of a bolt cutter. Inside were crates marked as medical supplies. Harper opened one and found silver restraint cuffs wrapped in official Redspire cloth. Another held forged orders with Mara's seal stamped badly enough that even Harper, who once labeled an entire donation shelf miscellaneous nonsense, could see the fraud. Callum entered last, silent and enormous, Biscuit still perched between his shoulders. His eyes fixed on a wall of names printed on pale forms. Loyalists, border medics, council staff, shelter volunteers who had helped hide royal refugees. Harper found her own name near the bottom. Harper Whitlock, unranked Omega, suspected bond influence. For a moment, the whole shed went quiet. Then Harper laughed once, small and cold. Bond influence. That is a fancy way to say I did not lower my eyes fast enough. Callum stepped close, his shoulder brushing her sleeve, careful even in wolf form. Through the bond came anger, guilt, and a promise so fierce it nearly stole her breath. Harper touched his fur for half a second. "Do not make this about saving me," she whispered. "Make it about telling the truth." Biscuit jumped down, shoved his head into a torn crate, and dragged out a small black recorder by the strap. Mara took it, pressed play, and Donovan Vale's voice filled the shed. "Let Redspire take the blame. By the time Callum crawls home, the pack will beg me for order." Nobody spoke after that. They did not need to. They had the proof. Then the broadcast tower bells rang in the distance, 5 low notes rolling through the valley. Dawn. Donovan had started early. Callum lowered himself so Harper could climb onto the truck step, but Biscuit beat her to him, scrambling back onto the wolf's shoulders with grim determination. Harper looked at the cat, then at the king, then at the road leading home. "Fine," she said, breath shaking. "But when this is over, both of you are getting flea treatment and a lecture." Callum took off through the ravine, Biscuit riding high, and every Redspire wolf followed the dead king back toward his stolen crown. The square was already full when Callum reached Northern Crown. Wolves packed the streets beneath black banners, shoulder to shoulder in winter coats, work jackets, uniforms, and old pack colors nobody had dared wear for 2 days. Donovan Vale stood on the broadcast platform in a dark regent cloak, one hand resting on the crown table, his voice rolling through the speakers with the smooth sadness of a man who had practiced grief in a mirror. "Order is not cruelty," he told the crowd. "Order is how a kingdom survives when its king abandons it." Harper arrived at the edge of the square in Mara's truck just in time to hear the crowd murmur. On the platform below Donovan, the loyalists knelt with their hands bound in front of them, guarded but unhurt, faces pale in the morning cold. Harper saw the gray-haired border medic from supply runs. She saw a young kitchen worker crying silently. She saw 2 royal guards staring at the ground like they had been forced to watch their own pack forget them. Her anger went quiet. That was when Callum stepped through the northern gate. Not charging, not snarling, walking. Huge, wounded, head high, paws silent against the snow-dusted stone. Biscuit sat between his shoulders with the expression of a cat who considered public resurrection a reasonable morning activity. The first person to gasp was a child sitting on a mailbox. Then an old woman dropped her coffee. Then the whole square seemed to inhale at once. Donovan stopped speaking. For one perfect second, his face showed the truth before politics covered it. Fear. Harper walked beside Callum with the evidence folder under one arm and the royal signet in her hand. The mate bond burned steady now, not dragging her, not controlling her, just holding like a promise both of them had chosen to keep. Donovan recovered fast. Men like him always did. "Step away from that creature," he called. "That is not your king. That is a Redspire trick brought here by a lowborn Omega who does not understand crown law." Harper looked at the microphones, the cameras, the council elders arranged behind Donovan like expensive furniture, and the crowd waiting to be told what to believe. Her knees wanted to shake. She let them. Then she kept walking anyway. "My name is Harper Whitlock," she said, voice carrying better than she expected. "I run a rescue shelter south of the border road. I do understand crown law. I also understand bad stitching, fake medical crates, and men who call women confused when they are about to get caught." A nervous laugh moved through the crowd before anyone could stop it. Donovan's eyes sharpened. "Remove her." 2 guards stepped forward. Callum growled once, low and controlled, and every wolf in the square remembered rank at the same time. The guards froze. Biscuit stood on Callum's back, arched, and hissed directly at Donovan. Harper opened the folder. "These are forged Redspire orders found in a Northern Crown storage shed. These are silver restraints marked as medical supplies. This is a list of loyalists Donovan planned to blame before dawn." Mara entered the square behind her with Redspire witnesses, hands visible, no weapons drawn. Harper lifted the recorder. Donovan's own voice cracked through the speakers. "Let Redspire take the blame. By the time Callum crawls home, the pack will beg me for order." The square went silent in a way no command could create. Donovan lunged for the microphone, but Callum shifted before him. It was rough, painful to watch, but not bloody, and when the man stood in the snow wrapped in Mara's spare coat, the royal mark shone at his throat. Alpha King Callum Ashford looked at his pack, then at Harper. He did not hide her. He did not explain her away. "She protected the crown when my council betrayed it," he said. "She told the truth when I could not. Any wolf who calls that weakness has forgotten what strength is for." Donovan's smile turned thin and desperate. "Then answer old pack law, Your Majesty. If an Alpha King must be carried home by an Omega and a house cat, what right does he have to rule?" For a moment, Donovan's question hung over the square like a blade nobody wanted to touch. The old council elders looked at one another. Some looked ashamed. Some looked hopeful, which was worse. Hope, Harper had learned, could be a cowardly thing when it waited for someone else to be brave first. Callum stood in the snow, pale from the shift, one hand pressed against the broadcast table, the spare coat hanging badly from his shoulders. He looked nothing like the polished portraits in government buildings. He looked tired, hurt, angry, and real. Donovan saw that and smiled, thinking weakness had finally arrived on schedule. "Answer the law," Donovan said. "A king who must be saved cannot lead." Harper felt the mate bond tighten, but Callum did not reach for her through it. He did not use it to pull strength from her. He simply looked at her, asking nothing, and somehow that gave her room to stand taller. Biscuit sat on the crown table beside the microphone and began washing one paw, because history apparently needed to be humbled. A few people in the crowd made broken little sounds that might have become laughter if fear had not trained them better. Callum turned back to his pack. "That law was written by men terrified of needing anyone," he said. His voice was rough, but it carried. "I know, because I became one of them." The square went still. "I thought duty meant standing alone. I thought trust was a door enemies could use. I thought an Alpha King protected his people by never letting them see him fall." His gaze moved over the loyalists, the workers, the guards, the Omegas standing at the edges where rank had always pushed them. "I was wrong." Donovan's face hardened. "Pretty words do not erase weakness." "No," Callum said, "but truth exposes rot." He stepped down from the platform, slowly, because pride no longer mattered more than honesty. Then, in front of the council, the cameras, Redspire witnesses, and every wolf who had ever been told rank was the same thing as worth, Callum lowered himself to one knee before Harper. Not as a defeated king, not as a man handing over power he did not understand. As an alpha who finally knew the difference between being obeyed and being trusted. Harper forgot how cold the morning was. He held out the royal signet. "Harper Whitlock saved my life. She protected evidence my own council buried. She crossed enemy lines for people who had never learned her name. If old law calls that weakness, then old law is unfit to guide us." The mate bond rose between them, warm and steady. visible only in the way every wolf in the square seemed to breathe at once. Harper took the ring, then closed Callum's fingers around it again. "I do not want a symbol," she said softly, though the microphone caught every word. "I want a seat at the table for the people who clean up after kings make history." For the first time that morning, Callum smiled. Small, tired, completely sincere. Done. Donovan tried to speak, but no one listened. That was his punishment beginning before the council even voted. By sunset, he was stripped of regent authority, his name removed from succession records, his allies dismissed from command, and his exile marked at the border he had tried to turn into a battlefield. No public cruelty, no spectacle, just power taken from a man who had loved power more than the pack it was meant to serve. Weeks later, Northern Crown Square looked different. Not because the banners changed, though they did. Not because Redspire trucks now crossed the border with medicine instead of suspicion, though they did. It looked different because Omegas stood near the council steps without lowering their eyes. Shelter workers had official badges. Border medics had voting seats. And in the middle of the square, someone had placed a small bronze statue of Biscuit riding a wolf. Biscuit hated it immediately and sat with his back to it for 20 straight minutes. Harper stood beside Callum on the balcony above the square, coffee warming her hands, his shoulder close but not crowding her. "You know," she said, "my shelter still has a damaged porch." Callum looked down at the people below, then at her. "The crown will pay for it." "Good. I charge extra for royal nonsense." His laugh was quiet, surprised, and freer than it had been when she found him in the snow. Harper leaned her elbows on the rail and watched a kingdom learn, slowly and imperfectly, that loyalty was not silence, power was not isolation, and love was not the thing that weakened a throne. Sometimes love was the only reason a king remembered what the throne was for.